The 2-bucket system that we're working on today is one of the easiest and cheapest vermicomposting bins you can make. For this composter, you will need 2 5-gallon buckets, 1 lid, a drill with a large bit or spade bit, waterproof caulk, screen or mesh, scissors or a knife, and some safety glasses. We use the large drill bit or spade bit to create ventilation holes in the top and bottom of the bucket. A bucket with a lid can be a pretty airtight system, so we want to make sure that we're providing plenty of oxygen in our system as well as good airflow. For this model of worm bin, you will be drilling holes in only one of the buckets, so your second bucket will remain untouched. The second bucket is used to catch any drainage or water that leaks from the bottom. The mesh that I used is the type for screen repairs in doors and windows. You can use any type of mesh that allows good airflow that is small enough to block most insects. We are applying mesh with our waterproof caulk around those ventilation holes. So you want to cut your mesh to approximately the size of the hole that you're covering. Around the bottom, you can cut mesh to fill the whole bottom of the bucket. So the easiest way to do this is to take a square of mesh and then trace the shape of the bucket onto the mesh and then cut around that to fill the bottom of the bucket with the mesh that you will then glue down with the caulk. With any bucket system, especially if you're recycling buckets, you want to make sure that they're clean, that you've rinsed any harsh chemicals out of them. So once we have our buckets ready, we want to move on to filling our system. So taking our bucket that we have the holes drilled into and we have applied the screen mesh to and allowed the caulk to dry. There are several ways to use this composting bin. If you want to have it set up as more of a long-term worm habitat, you can add thicker layers of bedding alternating between bedding, food scraps, and shredded paper. You may want to use European night crawlers because they do tend to burrow deeper and move around in the soil more. However, they are typically not as efficient as red wigglers. You can also use this bin by adding layers. So you start with just a few inches of bedding at the bottom, then you add paper and food scraps, and then cover with another thin layer of bedding. You would also add your worms at this time, and then give your worms a few weeks to work through this layer, and then add more food scraps each week or 2 weeks, depending on how many worms you have in your bin and how quickly they are consuming the food. You would keep doing this until your bucket is full, and then you would harvest the worm castings. The worms that we want to add to this bin are similar to worms that go in any other composting system. The best worms for composting are red wigglers. You can add red wigglers to this bin, or you can also add European night crawlers, or a combination of both. The night crawlers tend to be a little more durable in colder temperatures or fluctuating temperatures, and they move around more through the soil and go deeper. So now that we've put in our growing media, our compost materials, and our worms, we can put this in a garage or a shed outside to be stored. And the nice thing about this bin is that we have a little bit more margin for error. We don't have to watch it as closely as we do with some of our shallower bins. And with the 2-bucket system, we can lift our top bucket out, and then any water or drainage material, we can dump that to the side and then reset our buckets so that we aren't creating an anaerobic or wet environment, because while the worms like moisture, we don't want to drown them.